Many thanks for staying with us. Let's talk agriculture now. The Borno state government has acquired farm implements to support displaced farmers who have agreed to help their communities prepare for the planting season. Many of the farmers are excited with the gesture, as this will no doubt assist them to increase production in the new farming season.
Agriculture is one of the sectors that has suffered setback as a result of the protracted insurgency in Borno state. For nearly 7 years, arable land in farming communities across the state have remained uncultivated for fear of Boko Haram attacks. This trend, according to traders, has contributed to the high cost of foodstuff in the market.
Local government din garin nan babu su ne, amma ba ka ba za a samu saukin kayan raguwa sosai in an fara noma nan duk abin da yasa kayan ma ya kara din anan kenan.
Borno state is placed in 3 ecological zones: Sudan Savannah, Guinea Savannah, and Sahel Savannah. The state government has acquired modern farming equipment and facilities in tune with the climate and ecological factors, such that farmers do not have to rely only on rainfall.
We are going to deploy all the agricultural machinery we have. In the whole of this country, we have less than 100 combined harvesters. We have 50 of them in Borno. We have over 3,000 tractors. We have invested heavily in the entire agricultural value chain.
In areas where displaced persons are being resettled, the irrigation kit is already being put to use. With cautious optimism, the plan is to deploy machineries and support farmers in areas marked out as safe for habitation and farming.
This year, we have also we have it in our plans to see that anywhere that is resettling now, we'll go there first, clear their places for them, dig trenches to avoid some of these guys coming in, and then at the same time start clearing the land and then cultivating the land. Then give them the inputs like seeds, certified seeds, well viable seeds, and then we give them like fertilizers and so on.
Farmers would also have the opportunity to learn and apply value addition methods to their farm products.
From Borno, let's head south to Bayelsa State, where the heavy rainstorm at Kilama community in Yenagoa has rendered many of the indigents homeless. Although no life was lost, the rain destroyed many buildings and electrical poles, leaving residents homeless and in total darkness. Our community report tonight looks at the plight of the residents.
Meet Madam May, a 76-year-old woman from Bayelsa State. Madam May has been through an experience in the last 2 weeks in which life and nature have been unkind to her. First, the loss of her husband. Just as she was coming to terms with that, a fierce rainstorm blew her roof off. She's disconsolate.
I was inside my house with a little girl when the wind carried my roof away. I ran outside only to see my roof being destroyed. Just recently I lost my husband and my house is destroyed. This is causing me so much pain. Right now I don't have any hope. Who will help me roof my house? That's according to Madam May in Bayelsa State.
She's not the only one. The entire community of Kilama in Yenagoa local government area is feeling the pain from the havoc wreaked by the rainstorm. Buildings destroyed, electric poles uprooted. Residents recount the day.
We are in a family gathering till about 5 to 6 o'clock period. Small rain that wanted to start. Small time. So this storm started. The breeze came. We never know what to do as at that time. Until to the extent, because my father's house is opposite where we gathered. The next thing we saw, the roof of my father's house, they uprooted the roof.
Don't do the distance for, but breeze just come. Can't carry. I don't put fish for here. Can't carry this house, come out. No way. Plenty fish where I buy come, the fish don't spoil finish before the rain stop. Now night, no way to dry fish. The house can't come out.
This electric pole collapsed on top of this house. I didn't think there was light. You will see that the lives of people will have gone.
Another matter compounding their woes is the destruction of their farmland. Everywhere has been taken over by water. The paramount ruler of the land is at a loss regarding where his people will get food from.
Our cassava farms, plantain farms, all damaged. You can see even one or two very close here. So we need government support. Find a way to give a relief. We are dying in pain.
The rebuilding process has begun, but it is a long and hard one for the community. As the residents ponder on where to lay their heads, they earnestly hope that someone watching this will react swiftly and make them forget this day ever happened.
Ahead of the March 31st deadline for the full declaration of tax on income and businesses in Nigeria, the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, says the country will begin to experience a change in the economy through other revenue sources instead of solely depending on oil. Mrs. Adeosun explains that the Voluntary Asset and Income Declaration Scheme, VADE, set up by the government, is a tax amnesty window for those who have compliance issues and will soon come to an end. On his part, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, says special consideration will be given to the value of properties declared before the expiration of VADE, but backed up with evidence. Both government officials were guests on our current affairs program, The Core.
It's a focus on tax, a focus on revenue generation. What happened in the economy in the last 2 years with the collapse in oil price, the recession, and we found ourselves in a situation where we couldn't run government without, needing to borrow. We had challenges. Many states couldn't pay salaries. It was really a wake-up call for everybody, and everybody said, okay, we can't rely on oil anymore. And we did the analysis of our economy and said, look, actually, oil is only 9% of our economy. The other 90% or the other 91%, what is it contributing? Why are our tax revenues so low? So that was really the prompting. The second thing that drove a change in approach was the fact that data was suddenly going to become available under the automatic exchange of information, under things like BVN. Suddenly we could see taxpayers more clearly. In the past, the focus was that an individual or a company would have to declare, this is my income. Mm-hmm. And without data to check, the tendency for most people is, well, a lot of people weren't declaring at all, and those who were declaring were under-declaring. Mm-hmm. And government had no means at all of checking. So we decided, let's take a different approach. Let's, one, get the data. So that meant getting federal government and state government to collaborate.
For example, there's some people that have never declared, never paid any taxes, and so you now look at the value of the property, and if you can assess the value of the property and the person declares the true value of the property, which should reflect the income, then we tax just that. Now, in some cases, you might find out that over 6 years, maybe the value of the property has doubled. So if the person can show evidence and declares the income that was used to invest in the property, then we just tax the income.
Let's cross over to the world of business, where Nigeria's economy may be coming out of a recession, but there's a warning. Anne has details.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Melinda, and welcome to Business News. We begin with Nigeria's economy exiting recession, but it remains vulnerable. That's according to a new report released today by the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. According to that report, the executive directors of IMF welcomes Nigeria's exit from recession and the strong recovery in foreign exchange reserves. The IMF also commends the federal government's progress in implementing the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and the CBN's tight monetary policy, but it calls for a higher interest rate to contain inflation within the single-digit target range. The Senate has passed a legislation allowing autonomy for Nigeria's Financial Intelligence Unit to tackle money laundering, terrorism funding and other financial crimes more effectively. The Egmont Group, a body of 155 financial intelligence units worldwide, had threatened to delist Nigeria unless its own unit operates free of state control. The new law makes the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit an independent body able to share information with counterparts abroad. Before now, the agency was operating under the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. Nigeria is set to unveil the special court that will try individuals and corporate organizations that fail to meet the March 31st deadline set under the ongoing Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. The Finance Minister, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, did not specify when these special courts will be named or when prosecution will start after the tax amnesty program expires. This will be the second time in about 3 decades that Nigeria will be using special courts to try offences related to financial crimes. The last time such courts were used in Nigeria was by the late General Sani Abacha, and that was in 1994 through his failed banks decree. The Securities and Exchange Commission has asked Deloitte to proceed with a forensic audit of indigenous energy company Owando. This comes a day after Owando withdrew a lawsuit against the SEC by an application heard and granted by the Court of Appeal on Monday. An application for withdrawal by the shareholders was earlier heard and granted by the Federal High Court on February the 21st, 2018. In the meantime, the Acting Director General of the SEC, Mr. Abdul Zubair, says the Commission is committed to its primary mandate of protecting investors and will take all necessary steps to fulfill that mandate and uphold the integrity of the capital market. Nigeria's stock market reversed its negative territory today after 2 positive sessions following sell-offs by investors. For details on today's transactions, let's join Teniola Shibowale.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Wednesday's trading session at the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed in the red as investors took advantage of recent gains by highly capitalized equities to reap some profit. The impact of the sell-off swept across major counters of the market, except the insurance sector, while it pulled the main index back by 1.51% below the 43,000 level. Price losses from 23 decliners, led by Unity Bank, also overwhelmed the gains recorded by Eternal Oil and 25 other advances, and knocked off 236 billion naira from the market's total value. Total volume of shares traded for the day lowered by over 170 million units against Tuesday's session, while Zenith Bank, Japoil Oil and Sterling Bank emerged as the top 3 most active stocks. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Teniola Shibowale.
Thanks a lot, Teniola. As for other major world market, U.S. stocks, for example, have also ended midweek session mostly lower as investors react to the resignation of President Donald Trump's top economic advisor, Gary Cohn, following the proposed tariff on steel and aluminium imports. In the meantime, it's mixed close for other global markets. Let's take a look at the figures for today. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Melinda.
You first. First Bank.
Many thanks, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10. President Muhammadu Buhari pledges full support for the Super Eagles in Russia as he receives World Cup trophy in Abuja. That's on Sports News. Join us again.